I'm Dr. Suzanne Simpson, and this episode is to tell you about what I am going to do on my new YouTube channel. I am a teacher. I want to be really clear. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not a psychiatrist. What I did was I researched at a youth psychiatric unit about what did kids need that had deteriorating mental health disorders, as well as increasing substance use disorders. So I was actually a teacher on the unit, and I had students come to my classroom, and then they'd stay overnight on the unit, and I saw them every morning in my little classroom for school. So this is the root of my podcast of how do we support mental health in youth, but also in ourselves. Because what I actually found was that everything that my students said that they needed for wellness is what we all need. I feel that it is so important to understand our own experiences. So I could say, hey, I know exactly what a student needs because I've taught for almost 30 years now. But the thing is that what I think that you might need might not be what you say that you need. So this is the heart of my work, is what are people actually saying about their own experiences? And from my research, it was, what are teenagers actually saying that they need for us to support wellness versus what we say that they think that they need. I've not seen any other work like this done before. You just don't ever have a teacher on a psychiatric unit, let alone a teacher researching on a psychiatric where they say yes to you. And by the way, it took me 2 years to get approval for this. And you also don't get research at a doctoral level. This was 4 years of my life. It was my baby. So it is something I've not come across before. And I think it's so important to really understand what youth actually are saying that they're experiencing. So let me share with you my key findings. What did the kids say that they needed? It is so incredibly basic that I actually went 4 years of my life for this. So ready, here you go. My students at a psychiatric unit said that they needed support, understanding, and care. 4 years of my life for that support, understanding, and care. It is so simple, and yet as I've worked through it, it is so profound. Because what I found, and I mentioned this earlier, was that everything that my students said that they needed is actually what we all need. So I'm going to give you an example. So the unit that I was on, it was my heart and soul, and I had found my calling, and I loved it, and I was going to stay until retirement. And long story short, it got closed. It is now an acute unit, meaning that you come in if you're in crisis, and you might be certified, meaning that you're there, against your will because you're unsafe to others, you're in psychosis, etc. So my unit shut down as I knew it, as a therapeutic unit. And what did I need? And this is where my research findings really came into play for me in seeing like, wow, these kids are brilliant. I needed to be supported. I needed people around me to know how painful this was for me and what can we do for you in the process. I also needed to be understood with what I was going through. Remember, this was my heart and soul. I taught over 20 years in other areas, and I loved it. I wanted to teach since I was in kindergarten, but this was my heart and soul. And when I found understanding of the depths of my pain, it just took so much away. So for example, he was the man that hired me. He was an administrator at my district, and he said, Suzanne, I've been thinking about you all week, and you've had the rug pulled out from underneath you. And in that moment, it was just this sense for me of thank you. Because somebody was connecting with what I was going through, and they understood my sorrow. So I needed understanding. And what else did I need? I actually needed to be cared for. Into my 50s, I needed to be cared for. And it was actually the principal of my high school that said to me, Suzanne, what do you need from me? How can I support you? Which is support, but it's also care. And also in that moment, within all that turmoil, just that one phrase, Suzanne, how can I support you? Took away so much of my pain in that moment. So what do we all need, not only to support our mental health, but also to support our wellness. And even just on our daily encounters, when we meet somebody at a coffee shop, it might be just a little hello, which is caring. In all of that, we all need support, understanding, and care. And by the way, whenever I've presented this and I ask first, what do you think that my student said that they needed? Everything falls under the umbrella of support, understanding, and care. So if you want to consider what would I have said, I guarantee it would fall under support, understanding, and care. This podcast is going to get into all of that. So I hope that you join me as we delve into not only about support, understanding, and care, but about daily encounters. And what I mean by that is how our daily interactions, when we meet somebody on the street, when we're a parent to a child, a teacher in a classroom, corporate, employer, employee, people at the water cooler, how those daily encounters bring joy, healing, and they might just make this world a better place. You know what that all comes down to is connection. When we're in securely attached relationships and we feel connected, that's our support, understanding, and care. And every single person that I've come across in both of my research, as well as my career, as well as my personal life and my family, that is it. This podcast will be full of interviews with people from various walks of life. I want a global approach of how we bring joy, meaning, and might just make this world a better place within the encountering that we have every single day. So thank you for tuning in. If you are going to enjoy this content, it so helps me if you want to subscribe to this channel. And also there's a little like button below here, or you could leave comments. And please leave in the comments anything you would like for me to delve into in terms of topics of how we just encounter each other better. So you can find me on www.dailyencounters.ca. I am on all podcast platforms, and you will see that in the show notes below. Thanks again for joining, and so let's begin upon this journey of encountering.